Hi, it's Amy from Cakes with Faces. Now, people often ask me which hotels I've stayed in Tokyo, and usually I'm kind of hesitant to recommend specific places just because there's so many hotels in Tokyo and a lot of them are good. So I really don't think you should limit yourself to a specific list of places where I've stayed or that anyone in particular would recommend. Honestly, I've got no complaints about anywhere I've stayed, and Tokyo really isn't the sort of place where you need to worry about booking a sketchy hotel. A lot of them are actually pretty similar. So to show you that, I'm going to take you through some of the hotels I've stayed in Tokyo, and then at the end of the video there's going to be a few tips for things I do when I'm choosing a hotel. And tell me in the comments which hotels you've stayed in and we can all share our experiences. If you want more tips for booking hotels, there's a video all about that in my Japlanning playlist, and there's loads of tips for booking everything for your trip and checklists so you don't forget anything in my Japan travel guidebook. You can get that from cakeswithfaces.co.uk and there's worldwide shipping. Right, onto the hotels, and the first is the Hotel Sunroute Plaza in my favourite place to stay, Shinjuku. The best thing about this hotel is the location. It's really close to Shinjuku Station, which is so convenient. It's almost too close because you don't really walk past that much on the way, so you don't spot anything on the way. We even found an entrance to the station right next to the hotel if you go down these stairs. There's some stairs opposite the hotel that take you through to the Shinjuku Southern Terrace area, which has some cafes, a nice bakery, and the Takashimaya Times Square area with Tokyu hands. The hotel itself has quite a spacious lobby which looks quite fancy. The rooms themselves are good, they're kind of average, there's nothing that fancy and nothing to complain about really. There's a quick room tour in my arrival day video in my 2015 vlogs playlist. It's one of my older travel vlogs. Now the room size here I'd say is actually slightly above average. Now Tokyo hotel rooms are all pretty small. Unless you have a lot of money, you're gonna have a small room. Space is at a premium, so that's just how it is. Especially if you're used to American hotel rooms, they will be a lot smaller. But you don't spend a lot of time in your room, so it's fine. And you don't always get a great view from your room just because there's so many buildings. When I stayed here, the view from my room was literally a concrete wall. Next up is the Hotel Higashi Shinjuku, which is usually a pretty good price. They're also the smallest hotel rooms I've stayed in Tokyo, or probably anywhere. Before I went, I was reading reviews and a lot of people said you can't even put down your suitcases, which started to make me a bit worried. I was thinking, how small are these rooms? And really, you can't leave your suitcases out open on the floor. You have to sort of zip them up and put them upright to be able to get past them. But really, it's okay, it's not that bad. Now I wish I had some photos or video to show you, but I don't always do a room tour because honestly a lot of these rooms are quite similar and I don't always think they're that interesting. Great subject for a video. Oh, at this point I'll just mention a few things you pretty much always get in your room. You're going to get air conditioning. It gets really humid in the summer in Japan, so pretty much everywhere I've stayed has aircon. Bathroom amenities, you usually get a couple of free things. Slippers, sometimes you get pyjamas as well. You get tea and coffee making facilities, and you usually get a little fridge. But if any of those things are particularly important to you, do check when you're booking. Breakfast often isn't included, but I'd say the best option for breakfast is a bakery or a convenience store. They even have hot drinks, it's cheap, and there's loads of good stuff. So onto the location. The Hotel Higashi Shinjuku is right on top of Higashi Shinjuku Station. Higashi means east, so we're in East Shinjuku, which is a slightly less hectic part. You go out the hotel entrance, down some stairs, and you're right there in the metro station, which is so convenient. You'll be using the train to get around most days, so staying close to a station is good. Now there's quite a few hotels in this area around Higashi Shinjuku Station, and something you need to know is that this pink line going from Higashi Shinjuku doesn't connect directly with the main Shinjuku station. If you want to go there, for example, if you want to go on the Yamanote line or connect to one of the other lines, which you'll be doing a lot, you have to go one stop along to Tochomai, Get off the train, go across to the other track and go one stop along to Shinjuku station. We called it the Tochomai change and we did it a lot. After a few days it did start to get a little bit of a pain, but it doesn't take long and it wouldn't put me off staying in that area again. You can also walk to the main Shinjuku station in about 15 minutes, and all the shops and restaurants in Shinjuku are closer than that. And you can also walk to Shinjuku Sanchome station, which can also be handy. Next up is the Shinjuku Granbell Hotel. Now the best thing about this one is it's quite stylish. The rooms have a little bit more style than your average hotel room. Again, they're quite small, but you do get this bench by the window, which is something you don't normally get. I was lucky to have this nice view of skyscrapers. That's not guaranteed. If you're on a lower floor, you might not get that. The bathroom was also nice and stylish. It's definitely better than your average hotel bathroom. Also, whenever you come back to your room, there must be some kind of sensor because the TV comes on automatically and starts playing hip hop music. If you want to see what it's like, there's a room tour in my Arriving in Tokyo video in my 2016 vlogs playlist. Another nice feature was this tiny garden outside, which had a couple of tables and chairs, which was a really nice place to sit and have your convenience store breakfast. There was a luxurious choice of 3 convenience stores just around the corner, but really there's so many convenience stores in Tokyo that you don't need to worry about that. Wherever you stay, you're guaranteed to have one really close. There's also this rooftop bar with a really nice view. I don't know why we didn't go to that. I guess we just didn't have time. The location is just a few minutes walk from Higashi Shinjuku station, so remember that Tochomai change I mentioned earlier, and you can walk to the main Shinjuku station in 12 minutes. Now Kabukicho is the red light district, and this hotel's in a sort of quieter area where there's quite a few love hotels. They actually look really glitzy and it's quite interesting to see them. You might hear that Kabukicho is a dangerous area. There's loads of clickbait videos about it, and I won't go into too much detail here because it's something I've already talked about in my How Safe is Kabukicho video. What you need to know is it's not an unsafe place to stay. It's absolutely fine if you're just walking around the streets. I've stayed there loads of times and I definitely stay there again. Next is the Hotel Gracery Kabukicho, and this is a special one because it's the Godzilla hotel. You might have seen pictures of the Godzilla head in Kabukicho, and that's where the hotel is. They do have some themed rooms, but most of them are just normal hotel rooms. This was a bit of a splash out hotel for us. It was slightly more expensive than I'd normally book, but it was worth it. It was really good. It's an excellent location in Shinjuku, right in the heart of Kabukicho. You're right there in the middle of all the brightest lights, and probably a lot of the pictures you've seen of Tokyo will have been of this area. There's loads right there on your doorstep. It's worth mentioning though, you're so high up on top of the Toho cinema complex that noise really isn't a problem. And actually I've never had a problem with noise anywhere in Tokyo. It's just a couple of minutes walk to Shinjuku station, and there's loads of shops, restaurants and bars and arcades nearby. You really are right in the middle of everything. The room was a little more spacious than your average Tokyo hotel room, but definitely not that big, especially if you're coming from America. It's actually quite a spacious bathroom as well, with a separate room for the bath and shower. I think it was a wet room, but I wasn't absolutely sure, so I stood in the bath just in case because I didn't want to flood the place. There's a room tour and a video all about it in my 2018 vlogs playlist. If you stay at the hotel, you're allowed to go out on the terrace and see Godzilla up close. There's also a fantastic view of Shinjuku with all the skyscrapers. The view from my room was really good too. That made it really difficult to leave. Next is something a bit different, the Hotel Miracosta at Tokyo Disney. Now, if you're going to Tokyo Disney, you don't need to stay there. It's close enough that you can go on a day trip on the train. You don't have to change hotels unless you want to. Now, Disney hotels are always themed and they're always something special. It's kind of an experience in itself. The Miracosta is at Disney Sea. If you look at the Mediterranean harbour area of the park, those buildings are the Miracosta. So from our room, we had a view of the volcano, we could see the fireworks, we could see the park when it was closed. It was really something special. There's a couple of other Disney hotels too, and some unofficial partner hotels. It was very expensive, so I wouldn't stay there for your whole trip, but for a night or two, it was a really special experience. Next, I'll just mention the APA Hotels, which is a really big chain of hotels with branches throughout Japan. This one's actually from Kyoto, but wherever I've stayed in them, they've always been pretty similar. You usually get quite a good location for a good price, and basically you know what you're going to get. The bathroom is always the same, and this is one you get at quite a lot of Japanese hotels. It almost looks like a pod, as if it was fitted in prefabricated with everything already furnished. That might even be how they do it, I don't know. It's very small, quite basic, but it does the job. Overall, with the APA hotel chain, you sort of know what you're going to get. It's not going to be anything too exciting, but it's going to be a good location and a good price. It's a safe option. Next is the Hibiya City Hotel, and this is where I stayed on my last trip to Tokyo. It's in a slightly different location in Shimbashi, which is in the southeast of central Tokyo. Shimbashi Station has some really good connections, and it's on the Yamanote line, so you can get to Tokyo Station really easily, which is great if you're going somewhere on the Shinkansen. This area has lots of bars and restaurants. It's sort of where salarymen seem to hang out in the evening. And you can also walk to Ginza, which has lots of designer shopping, which isn't really my sort of thing, but it looks really nice there in the evening. One thing I did miss is this area doesn't really seem to have any arcades or game centres, which is something we normally like to do in the evening. The hotel's just a short walk from Shimbashi Station, and the room itself is pretty average for a business hotel in Tokyo, pretty similar to all the others really. The bathroom was quite nice. The strange thing about it was it had one wall made of glass, so you want to watch out for that depending on who you're sharing with. Thankfully, it did have a blind you could pull down for some privacy. And finally, the Park Hotel in Shiodome. Now this isn't too far away from the previous one. Shiodome and Shimbashi Station are actually linked by an underground walkway, which is really useful. This is a good location for going across to Odaiba because Shiodome Station's on the Yurakamome line, which goes across the Rainbow Bridge to Tokyo Bay. Shiodome is quite a modern area with elevated walkways and quite fancy shopping malls. You can also see the Shinkansen going past, and you can walk to Shimbashi and Ginza and all the places I mentioned earlier. From our room, we were lucky to have a view of Tokyo Bay. That was so nice. The room was actually really big. We were so lucky. I don't know how we got this. It must have been on special offer because every time I've looked at this hotel since, it's been way too expensive. The lobby's quite fancy with a bar at the bottom, and this terrible footage is from my old camera before I started making videos. Digital cameras have definitely moved on since then. One of the main reasons I chose this hotel is because it's on top of an office block, so you know your room's going to be quite high up, so you're probably going to get a good view. Another hotel I'd like to stay in is the Century Southern Tower in Shinjuku. That one also starts quite high up, and it looks like it has some fantastic views. I'd love to stay there one day. So that's it. As I said, please don't stick to these hotels. There's so many. Really, I'd book anywhere that looks good. You don't need to worry about it too much. So here's what I do when I'm choosing a hotel. Go to a hotel website, pick your area and set your price range. Pick somewhere that's close to a station because you're going to be using the train to get around a lot. You don't want to be walking too far to the station each day. You do a lot of walking in Japan and your feet will hurt. Have a quick check of the reviews, but remember that everyone has different expectations and some people get annoyed really easily. And also remember that most hotel rooms are small. There's loads more tips for booking hotels in this video in my Japlanning playlist, and loads of advice for booking everything for your trip in my Japan travel guidebook. The link's in the description. I hope that was useful. Tell me which hotels you've stayed in and whether you'd recommend them in the comments, and I'll see you not next Thursday but the one after. Bye bye!